So this one was kind of tricky, getting the ghost timer to change based on where the player is, so it will work at the start and the finish line. So there it updated to 4.9. I'm never going to beat it. Let me go slower next time, because I'll never beat 4.9 on the way back. But that's how fast the ghost is going to travel. So 6 is beatable, 6.8. Reset it to 0. And it's going to change it to 5.1. And then when you get there, there's like an air tolerance. There's a whole deal here. So it goes to 0 when you're within however much. Then it starts counting down. Then when I get here, it's going to be delayed by 0.3. Then it's going to go. There's a whole lot. So here's the deal. Your character, your air tolerance, wherever he goes in the acceleration, needs to be lower than the air tolerance when you get there. This has to be large enough so that the player is not going out of the bounds, but it has to be lower than what sets the time to 0. So, because if this time sets to 0 before you get to where it sets the time for the ghost, then the ghost time will be 0. So this is 10 more than these down here. And every time I tried things with this for a delay for the ghost. There was a retriggerable delay, so you can, because when I was hitting the back and it was delaying, it was really weird. It was coming, it was not going. So it has to be retriggerable, but it has to be only done once. And yeah, let me see what resets it. I forget what I did to reset it. Oh, once it's completed. Okay, yeah. So once you get to the finish line, then it's reset and it can do it again. You have to go all the way back to do it again at the finish line. This is the same line. Okay, that makes sense. Once the ghost is there, then it's retriggerable. So it couldn't be delayed because it got stuck in the delay. And that way the ghost can go after the beep test has run itself out. And that's the third timer down there. But back to getting the timer to do that. There's triggers at each one. And the first trigger, which is down there at the finish line, is attached to this starting line. So see if the player is is right there at the finish line, then it will reset the dew point. You only want it to set the ghost time once because you don't want them to come back through and then set a time close to 0 again. And then that's when the time will set the ghost time, basically. If the time is less than the ghost time, then it will set. But you want it to only happen once, because if he goes back through and it's close to 0, then it's close to 0, and you're not going to beat it. So it has to be nearly equal to where the player is. From the finish line, you have to reset the dew once when he gets to the start line. From the start line, you have to reset the dew once when he's at the finish line. So 2630 is where the finish line pillars are. And then again, the trigger volume down here is also due once. So, and the problem, I had a sequence out of this. This needs to be checked constantly. So event tick for both branches on the nearly equal for the player for this one. Right? So this resets this is the start line, this resets at the finish line. This is the finish line, this resets at the start line. And that's when you check this. That's when you can check and set the time. And that's how you get it to set the time on the start and the finish. So on a back and forth race, you have something that makes sense. So you can keep beating the time instead of only finding that setting the time at the finish line. It's kind of like a conundrum, but that's how you do it. Using triggers and getting the active location and do once, flow controls and stuff like that. And then the air tolerance was explained. And then this, if this resets the ticker time to 0. The ticker time is not the time paused. So that might be anytime the player is within 40 units of the thing, it sets the time to 0 and then counts it, and then when you're away and it's false, then it starts the counter down. And this is the time that can beat the ghost time.